This is Clark Merkley with BootUp. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. So if you're already online, just hang in there and we'll be right back in a couple minutes. Those of you who are just joining, you'll notice you have a control bar on this panel where you can do a little Q&A. We'll drop some things in the chat box. You can also use the chat box if you have questions. And you'll notice there's a little hand raising icon. So if someone who's online now can raise their hand just to let me know that you can hear me, that would be great. Perfect. So thank you for your hand raises, and we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Well, good Friday morning to everyone. Welcome to our webinar. If I can get another hand raised just to make sure everyone can hear me, we'll get started. Great, thank you. So for those of you who have just joined us, this webinar will be recorded. So if you need to leave early or you can't continue, you can come back later in the day, and it should be available on the BootUp website underneath the Amazon Future Engineer BootUp application page for you to listen to again. And for those who just joined, a reminder that you have a control bar where you can ask questions and get them answered in the Q&A box, and we'll take a look at those a little bit later in the webinar today. And there's also a comment or a chat section where you can drop in comments, and we've got some people that are monitoring that so that we can respond to any questions that you might have. So we'll go ahead and get started. So on our webinar today, I'm Clark Merkley, the Executive Director of BootUp Professional Development. We also have Jack Oligas, who is the Senior Program Manager for Amazon Future Engineer, and she'll have some time today to talk about the Amazon Future Engineer program and how it's tied into this very exciting elementary computer science initiative that's taking place right now. And we also have Abby Funabiki, who is the Associate Executive Director of BootUp Professional Development. And she's going to take some time talking to us about different models of elementary computer science implementation in districts across the country. And I think you'll find this interesting and exciting, and also you may see some school districts that you recognize. So I wanted to kind of start out with this quote. This quote is by Dr. Mitch Resnick, who is the creator of Scratch, or one of the creators of Scratch, which is a block-based coding program that we use very heavily, both Scratch and Scratch Junior, which is for pre-readers. This quote illustrates, at least at the elementary level, why we think teaching coding to young students is so important. It's not so much a job skill or preparing them for future careers, even though it certainly does both of those things. But if you view coding as a literacy, just like other literacies, reading and writing and mathematics, we believe that teaching children when they're young and gaining other literacies how to code and how to think computationally is critical to their development. And we, based on what we've seen, we know that it enhances their performance in other subject areas and also just brings joy and creativity to their lives. So we train people in language arts, not because they're going to grow up and be journalists or novelists. And we train students in math, not because they're going to be actuaries or math teachers or mathematicians, but these are critical literacies for all of our students to have to be successful citizens in the future. Computer science has the potential to be transformative. So it teaches algorithms, and an algorithm is nothing more than a series of instructions that tells a computer what to do. But if you've ever walked into an elementary school classroom, even if they're not teaching computer science, there is a sequence, and usually it's written up on the board. It's a sequence of events that takes place as students enter the classroom, taking off their backpacks and taking off their coats and sitting down at their desk and getting ready for the day. So those sequences of events or those algorithms, students are learning early, and this is a great time for them to gain coding experience as well. When they think about what they want to work on, they're already injecting design concepts into what they're doing, much like an architect before she or he sits down to draft the plans for a building. They envision what it's going to look like and imagine what it would be there in that space. And this is what our students are doing, is they're doing their coding projects. It enhances a making mindset, or that critical E in STEM, the engineering component, as the students imagine taking the skills and literacies they're gaining and building something. And what we see a lot in our work with elementary students is that they're building something or coding something that has benefit to them or to their family or to their neighborhood or to their school. And all these processes fuel creativity in children. They get them to imagine a world that they have some control over, and that they can bring subjects and animals and other things into their projects that have relevance and importance to them. And we also see in an active coding classroom, there's a lot of collaboration. Not only is it part of the process of having students work together in pairs or in teams, but they very much want to share what they're doing with other students. And so there's a lot of back and forth and collaboration. So just a little bit about BootUp Professional Development. We're a nonprofit, a 501c3 organization, and we provide elementary computer science professional development and related services throughout the country. We work with districts, and districts both large and small, in helping them create custom action plans for their district. So districts will often have very different strategic plans about how they want to introduce computer science, how they want the K through 12 plan to fit together. And often they'll rely on us for our expertise in helping them design that program based on our experience. And the BootUp deliverable, when we come on site to a district, and under the terms of this grant, we'll be there for 3 years, we work on that custom action plan and provide long-term ongoing professional development at the district location. So we work with the district, and they identify who those teachers of coding are. And they may be classroom teachers, they may be media techs, ed techs, or others who are working with students in the elementary schools. So we provide that professional development, which is very much a hands-on experience rather than a sit and get professional development that some of you may be used to. In addition to providing the professional development, we also have curriculum, student-facing curriculum, which is on our website. And I would encourage you to take a look at that. It's incredibly creative and engaging. Lots of extension activities for students that are moving at a little bit faster pace, debugging activities, and all of the lessons come with video support and tutorials to help both the students and the teachers through that process. One of the other things that we do when working with the district is something we call model teaching, which is where one of our facilitators will get up in front of a classroom of students for that teacher and deliver a coding lesson or facilitate a coding lesson is probably the better way to phrase it for those students, so that the teacher can see, okay, I've just learned about coding. I've learned, maybe a little bit about some projects and how I might integrate that into my classroom. But now I can see how it's delivered to my students, each with their own unique learning styles and motivations for being there. We also coach and train an instructional coach at the district level. For larger districts, that may be more than one. But we want to make certain that at the end of the 3-year period under this sponsorship with Amazon Future Engineer and BootUp, that we're leaving behind someone in the district that can be the trainer of future teachers. And one of the other critical components that we found works very well in districts is to create a professional learning community or a PLC of the teachers of coding, so that they can share ideas back and forth about what's working and what's not. And I know as Abby takes some time to talk about what we've done in districts around the country, that she'll talk a little bit more about how that program finds expression in different districts in different parts of the country. So I want to turn a few minutes over to Jack Olagus, and she's going to talk a little bit about Amazon Future Engineer and just give an overview of this relationship and this grant. So Jack, if you would introduce yourself and take over.
Yeah, thank you so much, Clark. Appreciate it. So I'm Jack Olagus, and I lead our elementary programs for Amazon Future Engineer. So our program officially launched in the fall of 2018, and we are a childhood to career program, and we aim to increase the accessibility of computer science education to students, especially those from underserved and underrepresented communities across the country. So within the K through 12 space, our program focuses on providing computer science education, professional development, curriculum, and courses to districts and schools across the US. And then in the college space, we provide 100 students each year with $40,000 scholarships and then an automatic internship at Amazon after their freshman year of college. So as you can see, we really build out programs that provide opportunities for students to first get inspired in the elementary years to build those 21st century skills, and then have those avenues available to them to persist in computer science through to a career in the field. So we really want students to have those resources available to them to help them build their best futures, whatever they choose that to be. So we're super excited to team up with BootUp on this initiative, and really hope that we can work with all of you in the future to bring these essential skills to your students.
All right, thanks, Jack. And Jack will be available if any questions come up later in the webinar. After Abby and I have had a few closing comments, we'll open it up for any questions that people might have. And once again, just a reminder, the webinar is being recorded, so you'll have access to all of these slides and all of the commentary and the Q&A at the end. So thanks again, Jack. So I'd like to turn some time over to Abby Funabiki, who's the Associate Executive Director at BootUp, to have her talk about some of the different districts around the country and what they've done.
Hi there, Abby here. I'm assuming you can hear me. So I'm the Associate Executive Director of BootUp. So I am lucky enough to work with our districts across the country to help them design their plans for implementing computer science for all programs. So Clark went into a lot of the why we should all implement computer science in our elementary schools, and I'm going to focus on how districts are already doing this. My goal is to show you several different ways that districts have implemented district-wide computer science programs, give you some ideas of how you might be able to do this, spark some ideas for you, and then help you design your plan for your Amazon Future Engineer sponsorship. So something you'll hear me come back to is that you know your district the best. Every district is different. You know your teachers, your students the best, as well as your community, the culture, and your district's vision. Therefore, your implementation will look really different, and your implementation needs to fit your vision for computer science. And we've seen our most successful implementations follow that district vision as a whole, as well as a specific computer science vision. So again, your implementation will look different than these, but I'm hoping that they will give you some ideas. Feel free to jump in if you have questions in the chat. So our first district I wanted to highlight is Kingsport City Schools. They're a medium-sized district in Eastern Tennessee. They have 10 elementary schools, and they implemented computer science with 100% participation for all of their K through 8th grade students. And the way they found time to implement this new subject was they turned their library time into library plus coding class. So they ended up training their library media specialists to become coding teachers, and these library media specialists are certified teachers. I'll point that out in all of these examples, whether the teachers are certified or paraprofessionals. And again, they used an existing related arts class or library class to find time during the day to teach computer science. And because they were all librarians, they thought it was important to make connections to literature, some maker spaces they already had going on, and some specific library lessons. So it was important that they integrated computer science with what they were already teaching. The next district I'll talk about is BootUp School District. And so they are, and that's the next slide. They are a rural district in Utah, south of Salt Lake City. And they just did something a bit different. They decided to prepare their lab techs, who are paraprofessionals, to teach computer science during computer lab time. So they turned their computer lab time into coding class. They started not like Kingsport with K through 8 all at once, but with just their 5th and 6th grade students. However, they reached their 5th and 6th grade students across all of their elementary schools, which was 3 elementary schools. And then since then, they've added on 1 grade per year. And so that's the way they wanted to roll it out. One thing I wanted to point out about them, if you look at the picture on the next slide, is that they've done an extraordinary job recognizing their teachers for taking this on. They've found some free ways to recognize and incentivize their teachers for going above and beyond and learning this new subject for their students. So this is a picture of the superintendent recognizing the lab techs during a school board meeting. And then along with this, they also did a story in the local paper. So I just want to point this out because there are a lot of paid as well as free ways to incentivize, to celebrate, and support your teachers who are going to take this on. Also, if you want to join Crystal Bassett, who is in that photo, she's going to talk about specifically the implementation at BootUp on our March 20th webinar. So this next school district, Avondale Elementary School, they started their full implementation in 2014. They turned an existing, to find time, they turned an existing typing and applications class where they were teaching applications in Word and how to use specific tools. They turned that into coding class. So Avondale teachers teach computer science as coding as a standalone subject, as opposed to integrating it with some other subjects, as you'll see some of these other districts are doing. And then Another unique thing about them is in alignment with their other specialist classes, like art and PE, well, probably not PE, but art and their other specialist classes, is that the students attend coding class every day, but only for part of the year. So that's an interesting way. Students are actually getting it every day instead of spaced out. Okay, so here is Davis School District. This is one of our largest districts, and we actually will have their elementary computer science supervisor join us on a webinar. So for you large districts, I would definitely encourage you to join in on this one. They implemented it in a really unique way. So again, if you're a large district, you may want to follow this model. So they decided they had lab managers at each of their elementary schools, and who are all paraprofessionals. And so because they already had this computer lab class, they trained that lab manager at each school to teach computer science during that time. So they are actually reaching every single student in the school district, elementary student, which is about 45,000 elementary students, with 64 teachers total. So they were able to train 64 teachers and reach 45,000 elementary students. So this might be something to think about if it's hard to take classroom teachers out of the classroom for PD. Also, another thing that's been very helpful at Davis School District is that they provided a full-time FTE position, Mary Ellen, who will talk to us on an upcoming webinar. And so she is able to be on the ground and run the program when we're not there. Okay, the next one. Okay, so Yelm Community Schools. They are a rural district in Washington, a few hours south of Seattle, and they started their program in 2017. They started by training their technology specialists and a couple volunteer classroom teachers in order to support the current classroom teachers in the classroom at all of the schools. So their school culture was really important that they made this volunteer. So they were able to support their teachers by providing the PD and recruiting teachers and technology specialists. They wanted to integrate computer science with the subjects that these classroom teachers were already teaching so that their lessons are integrated with core subjects, and that was their way of reaching all of their students. Okay, so Park City School District, my former district, looks different at each of their elementary schools. I don't know if you guys have thought of ed techs, but Park City School District turned their ed techs, who were certified teachers, into coding teachers. And so they teach their students during computer lab time and as a specialist rotation. So this specialist rotation was actually added on to PE and art and the other specialist rotations, and it occurs about every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on which school you're at. And then at some of the schools, the coding teacher actually does a push-in model. So they are coming into the classroom teacher's classroom and teaching a coding lesson so that the teacher can see what computer science looks like and hopefully become inspired to try it themselves. And you'll notice that that's really exciting because the students are already coming to class knowing how to code and wanting to integrate it with the subjects they're already learning. So that is a very cool model. The last district I'm going to talk about is MOC Floyd Valley, and we have their superintendent speaking with us on a webinar next week as well. So they're a rural district in Iowa. They're unique in that they don't have enough subs to cover teaching all their classroom teachers how to teach computer science, but it was really important for them to integrate computer science with what their classroom teachers were teaching. So they've decided to train teachers by grade band. So that actually ends up being about 3 teachers at a time so that they have enough subs to cover those teachers. And so the teachers get to work closely together to prepare their lessons for their specific grade levels, and it's creating these little mini PLCs that really have created this great groundswell of support within the school. So they also are reaching all of their students and are training all of their classroom teachers. So that's definitely a direction to go if that's a good fit for you. And then this is just a little picture of the end of the year project, which was a biography bottle. So this was a lesson that was already happening. And then they integrated computer science with it by using the Makey and Scratch so that you could click on certain pieces of the bottle and it would tell you about that person. So I'll just end with saying that I believe this can be done in any district. And again, each implementation will look different. And I look forward to seeing all of your ideas and working with you in the future.
Thanks, Abby. As you heard Abby talk, and you've heard me talk a little bit about BootUp's approach, you can tell that we're very passionate about teaching computer science in elementary. And here's some of the reasons we think it's really important. These students are going into a world that is awash in code, meaning every device they use, every car they drive, every financial transaction they'll be involved in the future will have code behind it. And whether they become computer science or technical experts, they will be using and communicating in code in almost any job that they have. In fact, we're preparing these young students for careers that don't yet exist, which is exciting and frightening at the same time, but we're trying to arm them with these 21st century skills. We believe it's really critical to start when students are young. You see this picture of this girl here. She's doing a project in Scratch Junior, probably before she even knows how to read. And students are not very intimidated by technology and adapt very well to coding because it's a creative endeavor and gives them a sense of control over the world and brings great joy to them. So this was, I believe she was putting her own face into an astronaut costume as part of her project. We think it's also essential that this is an equity and a social justice issue, giving all students access to this. So we believe it's essential to do this during the classroom day, the regular school day, not as an after-school club or a gifted and talented club or something like that. All students have the capability to learn, and all students should be given access to this critical set of literacies. It gives students a chance to, believe in themselves and aspire to great things. And we think it really helps them develop confidence in their own abilities. One of the unique things that we've seen in almost every school district is this growth mindset and persistence. One of the key skills they learn when they're coding is the process of debugging, which means that it doesn't always work the way that you thought it would right off the bat, and you need to go back and fix a few things and put a few things in different order to make sure the program works. And we've seen some really unique things happen as that persistency, that stick-to-itiveness that they gain from coding carries over into other subjects. Really inspiring to see students who are struggling with math realize that, if they can go back and debug the math problem or figure out what they've done wrong on a single step in the math problem, that they can get it right and they can, build their confidence. So these are some of the important reasons why we think it's essential to teach this literacy in elementary school. So I want to talk briefly about the application process itself. So I hope all of you have been to the BootUp website. In that lead banner page, there's a section about the Amazon Future Engineer BootUp sponsorship grant. You click on apply, and I'm going to play this little video and kind of talk you through it. The first thing you do is you go online and you click on apply. You register your account so that you can get back into it. And you'll notice, if you've ever applied for state grants, that this application process is incredibly straightforward and easy. It shouldn't be very time consuming. Most of the information you will either have at your fingertips, or there are some open text boxes for you to describe what it is you're doing. the application does require a superintendent sign off, but right there as one of the tasks, you can see there's a way to send your superintendent a recommendation that they can sign off and submit, saying that they're supportive of the program. And that's integrated right in with the application process itself. So let me go back to that just briefly. So once you've completed that part, you can click submit, and if you have any questions along the way, you can see there's a couple of places where you can ask questions and get those answered as you're going through the application process itself. So I want to go through some of the frequently asked questions we get, and I'll cover these quickly. And so if you have other questions that pop up, you can ask them in the Q&A box on this webinar or in the chat box, and we will open up the lines here in a few minutes to take those questions. So the first one is, let me go back, there we go. How much does it cost? So the wonderful thing about this opportunity is that BootUp services in providing the professional development, the curriculum, the coaching, and the instructional coach development is at no cost to the districts that are awarded the opportunity. Typically, you know, a district that retains us or engages us to come in and do professional development will be operating under a state grant or securing some other funding to do that. But with the generous sponsorship of Amazon Future Engineer, we come out and provide this professional development on your district site at no cost to the district. So then that leads to the next question: are there any hidden costs? And the answer is no, but I want to be, you know, fully transparent. So on the no part of that question, we use Scratch Junior, and Unplug lessons that do not have any ongoing cost or any subscription cost to the district. All of our student-facing curriculum is available for free on our website and will always be available there for free. Districts that are implementing elementary computer science initiatives, and some under the terms of this sponsorship, they will provide the facilities for us to meet. They will also, in some cases, provide meals or snacks for the attendees, even though that's not required. And many of our districts will have a stipend or some kind of a financial incentive for the teachers who attend and complete the training. But once again, that's completely up to the district as far as what you want to do. So that's not an automatic cost. We're not requiring the purchase of any devices or any robots or anything. That's completely up to the district what they want to accomplish. Next question: do we have to include all of our elementary schools in the initiative or all grades? And as you heard Abby talk about what we've seen across the country, it's important for you to understand that this is a district initiative. You know, we're here to support you and what you're trying to accomplish as a district. And you know your district, and you know what you can take on in any given period of time. And we'll customize that action plan to your district. So you can do all of your elementary schools, which some of our school district partners have done, or start with certain grades and expand. As you put your application in those open text boxes, you'll have a chance to describe what it is you're trying to accomplish, and we can provide any feedback as you are going through the process if you'd like us to do that. Next question is: who can we select as our teachers of coding who will receive the professional development? That is up to you. We see teachers of coding very broadly. It could be certified classroom teachers, in which case they're fabulous at integrating computer science and coding right back into the regular classroom day. Or it could be a specialist rotation, or it could be training media techs or librarians. And as the students go through a rotation in the library, they get the coding instruction. Can we select the dates for the professional development? The answer is yes. This is a 3-year sponsorship, so we anticipate with the number of professional development visits that we'll be making, which is approximately 8 visits under this program, that's spread out over 2 or 3 school years, depending on when the district has available professional development days. the availability of substitutes, and things like that. So we'll work with each individual district to schedule those dates that work for you. Do we need to have our entire implementation plan completed before we apply? The answer is no, but the more precise that you can get and the more expansive you can get, the more attractive the application will be, and I'll talk about that here in a second. We know that sometimes it's important for you to find out whether or not you've been awarded the sponsorship before you move forward with big plans. So we want to make certain that we're providing you with timely responses on your application when that comes in. And also that you understand that you've got the ability to modify and adjust based on what's working in your district. And we're very used to making those adjustments in action plans with our districts as we move through. Next question, are private or parochial schools eligible to apply for the sponsorship? The answer is unfortunately no, not at this time. This is a grant or a sponsorship available to public school districts. Does require superintendent sign off, and so not open to private or parochial schools. The next question is, can charter schools apply? And the answer here is it depends. So if it's a charter school that is under the umbrella of a public school district, they can apply and receive professional development for their teachers along with the other schools in that district. But freestanding or community charter schools are not eligible to apply under the terms of this grant or this sponsorship. We've worked with charter schools, we've worked with private schools at BootUp, but under the terms of this Amazon Future Engineer BootUp program, they're not eligible to apply. Now, I would encourage everyone to, if you're not certain, to go ahead and submit an application, and I'll jump down to the last question just for a second. If you're not awarded under this program with Amazon Future Engineer, knowing that you're interested and knowing that you have a vision for doing elementary computer science is important, because we may become aware of other opportunities either in your state or in the country. There are federal and state grant programs that are available, and the qualifications for those will be different. And so if we know that you're interested, we will definitely keep our eyes out for opportunities. Good example of that, about 4 years ago, we had a grant program at BootUp that we were doing some piloting in some different districts around the country. And we had a school in Georgia that was very interested in doing something, and were not awarded at that time, but about 3 years later, we worked with them to apply for a Georgia state grant, and they were awarded. So we've been working with them during this last school year. So backing up, what makes for a strong application? If you keep in mind, as Jack was talking about earlier, that the target of this program is to reach underserved and underrepresented communities, the most attractive applications will be those that are servicing districts that have a high number or high proportion of Title I schools, a high percentage of free and reduced lunch, meaning that that's one indicator of the poverty level of the school. We find that these districts and these schools typically do not have opportunities of this kind, and Amazon is very interested, as are we as a nonprofit, in making these opportunities available and closing some of the equity gaps that exist. So if you're a large district with many schools, your application will be much more attractive if you include those high need schools in the application and not exclude them. Also, what makes for a strong application is the more teachers that you're training, and once again, using teachers broadly, the better. Understanding that some of you are small rural districts or small suburban districts, you should still apply even if you have a small cohort of teachers. But the higher the percentage or proportion of teachers that are included in the application, the stronger the application will be. So I'm going to leave this one up. This is a link to the application page itself, my email address, and then I'm going to open up the lines for any questions that have come in. I have not been monitoring the Q&A, but I know some others have been doing so. So let me go ahead and let those questions come in, and maybe somebody who has been following them, if they want to repeat any questions, or if you have any. Let's see. I guess the best way I can do that is if you raise your hand and with a question, I can open up your line so you can ask the question. And then Jack and Abby, if you had any other comments or observations, please jump in. Okay, I do see one question from Stacy. Is this program appropriate for middle school students? And the answer would be yes. I mean, Abby talked about the Avondale Elementary School District in Arizona. They are a K through 8 district. And so even though the target of this program is elementary school, we've seen many of our districts include middle school teachers in the professional development. Or if you are a K through 8 elementary district, we would welcome that application as well. So I hope that answers your question, Stacy. If not, shoot us a separate question.
And Clark, there's a question in the chat. The deadline is at the end of March, but if they're not able to meet this date, will there be another opportunity to participate? And my suggestion would be to try and meet the date if at all possible, because we don't know that there will be another opportunity to participate.
Yeah, so at least get your indication of interest in there for us to entertain a conversation with you. But yeah, the deadline is March 31st. Okay, and I'm just seeing if there's anything else. So yeah, Abby mentions in the chat that the recording will be made available, and she gives you a link to that page. There's also a link in the chat to the curriculum page on the BootUp website for you to take a look at. And okay, and I can see that some of you are working on your applications now, and we highly encourage you to get those in as soon as you can, just so that we're aware of your interest and you can follow up with any questions that you might have throughout the course of the application process. Any other questions that anyone might have? All right, Jack or Abby, any closing comments that you've got?
No, we're looking forward to everyone's applications.
Yeah, thank you so much for considering applying. We hope to see your applications soon. Thanks so much.
Great, thanks everybody. And once again, if you have questions that pop up that we haven't yet answered, I can see one from Carol. Let me answer that one. The largest number of students served and the smallest. So I think the largest district we've served is the Davis School District that Abby talked about, with about 45,000 elementary students in 64 elementaries. And we've also done some work in the New York City public schools, but not with the entire districts. And obviously they have many, many more than that.
Yeah, and, I can jump in with our smallest.
Yes, please.
So our smallest is Lone Star in Colorado, where they're serving 42 students. And second smallest would be Garfield in very rural Utah, where they're serving 92 students.
Yeah, and I guess one comment on both of those. We were so excited. Both of them are working under the auspices of state grants in their states. And these rural communities are very excited about the opportunity of having their students learn to code, because coding is one of those great occupations, if you pursue a career there, that you can do from almost anywhere. And so they're excited about the idea that their students might be able to stay closer to home and build that local community, because sometimes the career opportunities are somewhat limited. depending on what's available close by. So this opens up a whole new world for some of these small rural districts. So.
And Clark, there's another question. How many grantees will be selected?
Well, the goal is to reach 1,000 schools. And so since it's a district-wide application, it really will depend on how large or small the districts are that are applying. So we're estimating somewhere between 40 and 75 districts, but it's hard to say until we actually see the applications that come in. But you know, the goal is for us to reach 1,000 or more elementary schools starting in the fall. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone's attendance today. We know your time is valuable and appreciate you spending some time with us. I encourage you to apply, and if you have further questions, please reach out to any one of us and we'll answer your questions. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your Friday and a great weekend ahead.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care.